creating a solid pipeline of patients that are either coming in to see you or are referring or reactivating will keep any business healthy, including a podiatry practice. But you can't just say, I do good work and they'll tell people about it. Your patients are terrible at telling people about you. They're terrible at even remembering your name. And that's not their fault. They're busy people with way too much stuff in their heads. And so, part of good marketing, the three most important words in marketing are nurture, nurture, nurture. And you just have to stay connected.
This is the Justin Blake podcast experience for health professionals that mean business. So wherever you are in the world, listen as we discuss everything you need for you and your health business to survive and thrive. Thanks for listening.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. My name is Justin Blake, and I'm joined today with my colleague Rem Jackson in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're just comparing weather stories. Because, we had weather. We had some snow over the weekend, but only an inch or snow so on Saturday. And it was pretty blowy, pretty wild. Today wasn't a great day. It has picked up. But you were saying there's quite a lot of heavy wind there. You didn't get the snow that they got in Vegas or in Texas, Rem.
No, we got none of that. As I said, all that went north of us, and the two big storms that are continuing across the country will do that again. We'll get some more wind tomorrow, but you'll get high winds here, and we had some high winds over the weekend. So
but it's normally quite a glorious climate. Is that why you moved to Las Vegas? You say you've been there 5 years.
It's a major reason. January 16th, January 29th, 8 a.m., I walked out to walk my dogs in Pennsylvania, and it was one of those mornings where you have that much ice on everything. And I slipped, landed on my back, broke 3 ribs, and I owned this house in June. So, yes, we have a connection here, though. Our adult daughters all live in Southern California, and so we're one of them's with us right now. That's the one that spent time in Ireland and married the Irish fellow.
That's right. You have quite a connection here. I mean, you've been over and traveled around your daughter was married in County Cavan, I believe. Yeah, in Cavan. Yep. Right. So you've spent a good bit of time here. Well, hopefully you'll be allowed back again soon.
That would be nice. It would be very nice.
I mean, friends in Australia and China now are talking about, not this coming. Well, of course, I don't think this summer seems to be a write-off now. I think it may be summer 2022 before they're, long haul trips regularly back from Australia and China and places.
That's probably true. That may be the case. But the one thing I've learned with all of this is nobody really knows, right? We'll just see how it shakes out.
Yes, it's
do your best, take care of people, and try to, and just make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do you think practices have sort of come out of this? Because we're nearly around into 12 months now, really.
Oh, we're almost about the middle of March is when, for me, it's right about the 15th of March, I think, when San Francisco became the first city in the United States to just completely lock down. And almost, immediately after that, the whole country then did that. So it's about a year. And 1 year. So 1 year ago, I met with a group in top practices. As everyone I think knows, I work with podiatrists all over actually the world, but primarily the United States for sure. Yeah. And so I have a little bit of a higher level group I call the top performers, and that's a small number, about 12 practices. We were on our monthly call, and that, I'll tell you, Justin, that was probably the bleakest business call I've ever been on, and I've been on some bleak calls in my corporate life and all the rest of it. And what I said to them in December, I wish I could have played the recording for them in March that we made in December as we took stock of the year, because they wouldn't have believed it at the time that they would have come out of this as healthy and as strong as they were. Most of them had their best years ever, even with the pandemic shutdown, even not counting any government stimulus money, just basic, regular financials of the practice. So the story in the U.S. is the doctors that I work with, and I this sounds a little self-serving, and I don't mean it to be, but the doctors that I work with have navigated this very well, and most of them have at least beat 2019 numbers in 2020 or come doggone close. Yeah. And are well positioned. The rank and file, though, many are still really struggling, and I'm aware of that. So it's a little different picture when
especially colleagues who are in. I know one colleague in London with physical therapy practices, and I mean the footfall is so far down. I mean, I think it's New York. Was it the stats? I mean, 18% of people were going back to their office in January, back to their desk. So, I mean, it's
small.
That's
very small.
The lifeblood of his business. So there's quite big change.
My daughter's in it.
Yeah, sorry. As you say, it's the practices that were proactive already before as we've talked about on many calls, having the business fundamentals in place already before this lockdown, who really came out of this really well.
Very healthy. Yeah, that's right. I mean, a podiatry practice is like any other small business. Mm-hmm. There's three parts to all of this. And I always start with the mindset, how you see things, and how you think is a true determinant of how things are going to go. Because it was what Henry Ford said, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're probably right. And so that's the first thing. And then the second one is marketing. That's what we've been doing since 2007, and simply creating a solid pipeline of patients that are either coming in to see you or are referring or reactivating will keep any business healthy, including a podiatry practice. But you can't just say, I do good work and they'll tell people about it. Your patients are terrible at telling people about you. They're terrible at even remembering your name. And that's not their fault. They're busy people with way too much stuff in their heads. And so, part of good marketing, the three most important words in marketing are nurture, nurture, nurture. And you just have to stay connected. I want my members to email their patient base, their entire list, every week. And many people say that sounds aggressive. Well, not if it's interesting and engaging and even non-podiatric related. Just recommend a good book or something else, and it takes care of itself. Yeah. So you have to have that, and then you have to. Unfortunately, there's not a school that prepares podiatrists or chiropodists or anybody else that even teaches them one course with anything to do with business, and it's a travesty. But it's the same for attorneys.
You think that's the same here in on this side of the pond? Is because really the courses are set up for people to go and work into the big hospital systems that are already structured. And a lot of podiatrists don't even have to think about how the patient journey it is to get to sit in front of them and the follow-up after.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a big part of things?
No, I don't, because that's not the case here. And it's the same for all professionals. It doesn't matter. Attorneys and accountants and every kind of medical professional you can think of, the schools do a tremendous job of preparing them for their profession. Yeah. But they don't even tell them a single thing about the fact that, guess what? You're going to run a business, and there are basics that if you follow, your life's going to be a whole lot easier. But anyway, if it weren't for that very large problem, I wouldn't have a company. We wouldn't be doing this. So it's a delight to be able to help them. And the other thing I'll say is, it's also a delight to be able to help podiatrists. They are really, really lovely people, salt of the earth. They're so caring, and they worry so much about their patients, and they just don't seem to have the big egos that you'll find in other professions where they don't listen to anybody. Podiatrists will roll their sleeves up, and they're just good people, salt of the earth.
Get the work done. And I mean, of course, they have quite varied careers and varied sort of options develop their sort of practices and businesses, especially in the States. And I mean, I didn't realize until talking with Doug Ritchie a couple of weeks ago about there's sort of quite a disconnect between the sort of the biomechanics and the surgical side of things in the States.
Oh my goodness, they've abandoned it at the schools. They really aren't teaching it anymore at any level. The doctors come out, they are remarkably skilled surgeons. Yes. And they don't know the first thing about maybe using an orthotic and helping people. And so it's incumbent, I think. One podiatrist said to me a few years ago, the schools aren't producing, they're creating junior orthopods now, not podiatrists. And so, and it's a shame because,
is that the demand of the insurance companies and the volume of patients that they're sort of seeing using podiatrists, is it? Or why is it sort of scaled in that direction?
That I don't know, because it doesn't make sense, actually. There's maybe to make it an equivalency, PM to be like an MD or a DO. They talk about that, as you know, on PM News, Barry Block's easing every day. I don't know why you wouldn't just really embrace the great tradition of, podiatry. It's so varied and, it's just, it's so rich. So I don't know, it's a mistake in my opinion. But our doctors spend a lot of times correcting that and teaching and guiding the younger doctors to have this skill set, because it's, as you know, in the US, the way doctors are reimbursed, especially in the US, is just, it's ludicrous. It's a travesty. And there's a wonderful little thing that was on social media a while ago. If you went to a restaurant and ordered a steak, a potato, and broccoli, and then the restaurant was paid in the same way that a podiatrist is paid for their services, or any doctor, and then they followed the whole process, which is exactly the system that you have to do to get paid here. It becomes, it's absolutely ludicrous. And when you look at it that way, but that's what doctors have to deal with, entire systems just to get paid. And I've often said, I wish podiatrists would be thrown off of every payer plan, every insurance plan, only have to take cash. It would be the absolute best thing that would ever happen to them. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
And there are a lot of practices trying to make that transition away to more cash pay.
Oh yeah, that's a very big goal, and one that really works, especially now, because patients are used to paying out of pocket for more things. And there's a case to be made. You can go all cash. It's just it takes a lot of guts to do it, and people have done it. But getting to a mix of 50%, I think, is a goal.
Yeah, again, it doesn't happen overnight. Again, that colleague in London, we've helped him transition in the last couple of years from maybe 60-70% insurance down to sort of about 30% insurance. Yeah. But it takes a little bit of time, because it's ridiculous, because the insurance companies are just dictating the treatments that the patients are getting. They're calling the shots, really.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. However, given all those challenges, so that's probably the biggest challenge. I've never talked to one podiatrist that says, I don't like treating patients. They all love it. There's so much that's so rich in what they do, but they all really are annoyed by not only just the basic business that you have to do, but to deal with this, very complicated, highly overregulated environment they're in. But the fact is, Justin, that's the problem in podiatry and in medicine. But if you left and you went to any other business, they've got their own version of that they deal with. How would you like to own a car dealership or be a car salesman or someone like that? Because it is not very long from now that you will no longer have a job. Because people are not going to buy cars and it's going to come much quicker than we think. Like, for instance, the grandchildren, my grandchildren that are being born right now may never learn to drive a car, because there will not be a need to do it, because you just summon a car, it'll show up, there'll be circling around the area, and you'll just take it where you need to go, and then they'll be there. And so every line of work has all of its challenges. What you do is you say, all right, what are we going to do? How are we going to use systems? How are we going to use our mindset, our marketing, and our management to just succeed in this? That you spent 12 years.
Because it was obviously the people who were in your mastermind groups, or who are in our sort of more closer sort of coaching groups, they would obviously have been of the mindset already of quite a positive outlook and a quite a structured focus to their business, which is obviously what helped them.
Or they aspire to be. That's true. We haven't. We know who joins Top Practices and who is a member. And at first and foremost, they have to be able to see things that way. And most don't. And that becomes an incredible advantage. And that's to every person here, regardless of what you do. If you're rolling up your sleeves, like every day when I wake up, it's the best day ever for me, and I'm going to enjoy it no matter what happens. And when you start working with that, next thing you know, everything starts working out.
And is that because you attack it because your book that you wrote last year was like you have to have the mentality of a 6-year-old to. What was that?
Yeah, you treat yourself like, that's that was a fun little project that I did with my daughter. And the one thing I've learned, when I started doing this back in 2007, I thought I was the only person that was hard on themselves and could write the litany of everything wrong with myself. And I found out that it doesn't matter how successful you are, how good you are. Everybody's got this stuff inside them that's been there ever since you were a kid. And that simple book, Your Inner 6-Year-Old, simply says, look, the next time you want to be hard on yourself, well, first of all, what did you do that was so bad? What did you do that was so bad that you just want to beat yourself up like this? Shrink yourself down to a 6-year-old and then talk to that little child the way you would talk to a little child, which is caring and loving and supportive and whatever. And then, treat yourself that way. And you have an awful lot more room to have a good day, treat others well, and just do better. So that's the idea.
Because I think, that is really important, especially in the profession where there is a lot of, as you say, very, very committed practitioners. They give so much energy all the time. I mean, they're very, it can be a very energy sort of sapping role to play. And it can be.
Yes, as can everything. Everything can be that way. And, but I know, I mean, the thing about podiatry is here comes a lot of patients. I mean, you see a lot of people. It's a move them along, 30 patients, and some of my doctors see 60 patients a day, which is the top level. I mean, that's a lot of people. But I always say the sweet spot here is about 32 patients a day, and you're right about where they are pretty comfortable, but moving along pretty well. You have to find the joy in service. Otherwise, there's a great book by Mark Sandberg called The Fred Factor. I don't know if you've ever read it. The Fred Factor. It's a very simple, you can read it in about 2 or 3 hours. And it's about this, the author of the book moved into a neighborhood and the postman, the mailman showed up. His name is Fred. And he introduced himself and it just tells the story of like how he turned the simple act of delivering people's mail into a wonderful, blessed mission. And the joy that service of being to others just brought him every day. Otherwise, what could be more boring than here comes the mail every day after day? They have terms for that. Going postal and all the rest of it drives people nuts.
And do you think is it more sort of you've got to find the higher purpose?
Yeah, right. Which is in service to others. I don't think I think if you don't truly look into the eyes of the person that you're trying to listen, years ago, many, many years ago, I was working in sort of a different industry. This is 30 years ago. And I was doing these one-day seminars all around the country. And I found out then that I had a gift for public speaking. I didn't know it till I was thrust out there and said, go do these seminars. And I'm like, okay. So I went out, and then we would get the little the forms back, and evaluating it. And they were saying things like, Rem's the best speaker I ever heard. Oh my gosh, Rem's amazing. And I thought, maybe I'm good at this. And well, one day I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I had a cold, and I just didn't feel good. And I had to do this seminar. And I remember before I went down to the meeting room, I thought to myself, just take one big long breath, talk all day, and you'll be done. And then you can go home. And so I pretty much did that. And then I got on the plane later. Then I was sick. I came back and I went to bed. I got on the plane and I started reading my evaluations, and they're like, average, needs work, could be good. And I thought, oh my gosh, I so let those people down. And I thought about, like, my number one example of this is Bruce Springsteen, who I hold in enormously high regard. And Bruce, of course, Born to Run is his big, super big hit. And Bruce has probably played Born to Run thousands and thousands of times. And every time I've seen him, which is about 30 times, when that song comes, oh yeah, we're, like I told you, we're fans. And so when, and that's the thing, if you're a Bruce fan, he's playing, you're going. And so they turn the lights on in the arena, wherever you're at, and the band plays Born to Run, and it is incredible, the energy. I mean, he's got to be tired of playing Born to Run, but you feel like you're all of a sudden in like this giant living room with all your best friends, and Bruce is playing Born to Run. And, they asked him, he's been asked about that, how is it you maintain that level with stuff like that? And he said, this may be the one and only time anybody ever comes to see me, and everybody wants to hear Born to Run, so they're going to get it, and I'm going to empty the tank. And I resolved after that day in Hartford to never, ever, ever again do anything in service of other people if I wasn't going to bring absolutely everything, my full attention and intensity. And, it just makes you feel so good at the end of the day. So if you're phoning it in with your patients because you're burnt out, or you're just like, oh gosh, here we go again. More people, same story, same stuff. You've got to read the Fred Factor and rediscover that joy in service. Because if you don't get up thinking, I'm going to be helpful today and do my best and use my skills, then there really is, what's the point? And if you start to dream that, if I go open up a restaurant instead, then I'll be happy. Because people do this. They're like, I think I'll go be this other thing. And they find out, same stuff, same thing, different day. And, and even what you do and what I do, you're talking to people on a one-to-one basis, on a regular thing. And, if they deserve absolutely the best of us, even though they may be the 35th person that you have helped this week, and and your mind's on the weekend, it better not be. It has to be on them and their issues and concerns. Then I find I sleep better. I'm just happier, much, much happier. And I don't know a way to happiness. I mean, I guess if you won the lottery and you could handle it, that'd be a pretty cool thing to try to. I'm willing to test myself if that were to be the case. Yeah, right. If I won millions of dollars, I would like to see if I could stay happy. I'm in. But most of us are going to do it through building a solid business and doing the things you do, and might as well enjoy the day.
Yeah. But as you say, we're in a podiatrist, physical therapist, medical practitioners in a great position before, but especially now with everybody focused on their health, keeping active and mobile even more. Yeah. It's a golden.
Yeah, it is absolutely the case. I mean, the demand is higher than ever. People are walking around their houses, injuring themselves in their bare feet, and all they can do is hike and run, and they're screwing themselves up that way. It's listen, there is no lack of patients. Yes. My goodness, there's only 12,000 active podiatric licenses in the United States. There's nobody practicing podiatry. I mean, it's a very small profession, and there's 350 million people. And I often get a kick out of people like, well, I got a competitor down the street, the other podiatrist. I'm like, no, you do not. The John Holtman, who I think you may know here in the U.S., he's written some wonderful books, and he's always in the last of the back page of Podiatry Management magazine, Dr. John Holtman. I heard him say one time, the podiatrist down the street is not your competitor. It's stupidity and Walmart. That's your competitor. And he's right about that. I mean, you want all podiatrists to do well. A rising tide floats all the boats. And they're just, I don't care where you are, there's too many people that need your help. Nobody can see everybody. But if they're going to the wrong place to get help with their lower extremities, then that's our fault, because we didn't have the messaging, the marketing, the information to tell them, oh, guess what? There's a real alternative here for you. So that's how it works.
It is getting that message across is the important thing, communicating what you can do for patients. But
remember, when you do that, Robert Collier, the great marketer from 100 years ago, said, enter the conversation that is already going on in the minds of the people you want to attract. So if you want to have people come into your practice because they have heel pain, or they've got problems like that, whatever it is you're particularly interested in, then your marketing messages can't be, look at me, I'm Justin Blake, I went to this school, I did all this stuff, and I know the best way to be boring at a party is start talking about yourself. So make sure your messages are all about them, their worries, problems, and concerns. Their reticular activating system will see it, they'll notice it, and then address the issue, and then tell them. Mm-hmm. You can call us here. You can come to our website here. Just never forget to tell people how they could find you. Like you could find me at toppractices.com. So there you go. That's, always do that.
Yeah, there are so many websites that we sort of see, and because I'm sure you start off with that as well. Everybody's always got you think you have one problem in their practice, and of course it's all interconnected. But
sure.
There's quite a lot of generic websites that are just up there that are just the same. And I was working with somebody over the weekend, and again, there was no phone number, even a basic phone number. You had to hunt to get right down at the bottom. It wasn't even clickable for this chiropractor to get patients. And there was just no way of contacting them. Lots of good information on the website. No call to action.
Yeah, I know. And that's it,
Because there's amazing opportunities now. I mean, because you can be, what did you say? Everybody looks at what somebody else is doing down the street and how, they may be busier, or they may be seeing different types of patients that you want to, or working in a specific niche, maybe sports medicine or surgery, I think if you're worried about what they're doing down the street and don't work on what you're doing yourself, you can end up sort of in not a good situation.
Oh, it will serve you so badly because, remember, so often I've been in companies, or like you look down the street and you think, oh man, those guys, man, they must be just so happy. And then if you were a fly on the wall at their meetings and they'd be like, they got these problems, that you would the number of times in my life that I've seen someone who I thought, wow, they have it figured out. They really do. And then, I don't know, a year or two later, there's this fabulous explosion of awfulness that happened. And you thought, I had no idea that was going on. So just don't pay any attention to anybody else. Just other than if you see something smart and good, then find your own way to do something like it, because that makes sense. And that's the idea of masterminding, is learn from others, share.
Yeah, because they've been through everybody's been through that. One of my old coach, Paul, used to talk about, somebody has to be over the top first to get all the arrows, to make all the mistakes, to make all those sort of things.
Yeah, a buddy of mine who's a divorce attorney has always, he's from down south. He always says, my daddy once told me, if you're going to walk through a minefield, follow somebody.
Yeah, that have made the mistakes before, because they are, there's lots of things that you can do that, as you say, you maybe get caught up in one direction and it may not give you the ideal outcome that you think it will. So certainly groups or discussion groups or with colleagues are a better way to find out what has worked and not having to reinvent the wheel and make those mistakes again.
I built my company on that principle.
Mm-hmm. That's the way you've done it.
Absolutely.
Because it is now. I mean, it's practices can scale now outside of their local community, and they can make a sort of big impact, for quite easily with marketing now and decent websites. And as you say, that's going to be more important as practices go on. If we're not able to meet with patients as well, are you finding a lot of people are consulting online?
Back in March, before March, I had one practice that was doing some telemedicine. And then in April, I had 90% or 95% that were suddenly, we're doing telemedicine. And what I have found is most of them have said, there's a role for it. Certainly, it can be a very useful. It's a great idea. Sometimes you have a patient, maybe that's, very difficult for them to get into the office, a lot of work to get there or a long distance. And while it's never going to replace, in podiatry, it's hands-on. You need to be touching the person and working with them. However, there's a part of it that can be done remotely that can be really useful. So it's become an arrow in the quiver, but it's not going. Unless something were to change, that's not what's happening at all.
No, it's not going to replace hands-on.
We've been dabbling in it, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly, for certain aspects, it works quite well. But as you say, it's a face-to-face interaction. And so what do you think are the main mistakes that the practices make in their marketing? Well, apart from talking about themselves.
Yeah, that's probably a number one thing. I will tell you this, Justin. It's exactly what you said. So it's putting up anything that you do that it isn't reasonably well designed to help someone take an action. That action is call your office or make some kind of a connection or request information because they're not ready to see you yet, but you can find a way to get them into your marketing funnel, your database list. And so probably the biggest thing I'm working on right now with all my doctors, last year, I've been trying to sort this out for quite a while, how to help my practices. Really busy, right? They're very busy. They got stuff going on. They don't want to be writing content and doing all this marketing stuff. They would rather have somebody do it for them. And there are companies that do it. Problem is, even after their best efforts, it's pretty generic stuff. And if you look at the engagement in the analytics online with the stuff that those companies are producing, it's not very impressive. But when the practice is putting up photographs and a little bit of information, if they're just engaging themselves on a very regular basis, the engagement goes way up, and so do the following numbers. And so how can you have that level of intensity without, hiring 7 people to do your marketing? And we've come up with just a tremendous system, and it's I'll just lay it out. It's a marketing calendar, marketing calendar that you and your staff, work on together, because somebody on your staff maybe likes to take photos. Somebody on your staff can help put some videos together. And everybody on this call listening to this needs to know that you need to get in the short video business. And if you Want to see great examples? Just come to Top Practice's website and look at our videos, because we do them constantly. Tina Del Buono, Dr. Peter Wishney, myself. Yeah. And those are just good samples of short, sweet, to the point, when none of us are doing any big production stuff. We've got an editor that puts, we don't even have to tell him what to do. All the animations, he just does it. And any podiatrist can do this. People always say to me, I don't have time to shoot video, Rem. And I'm like, yes, you do. I mean, you can shoot 6 videos in an hour and you're done for a month and a half. I think
it's maybe the attitude of, what are we going to talk about? You talked before about what are you going to put into these.
Okay.
And
so here it is.
So it isn't. I mean, as you said, it doesn't have to be all about a specific technique or what you're treating for. It could be a great day, and if you didn't have foot pain today, you'd be able to go out and walk down the strip in Nevada.
Let me give you a pearl that would everybody listen carefully, because I think I didn't totally conceive this up. I just ran with it. So I won't take credit for it. But there are 5 days in the week, right? Monday through Friday. 5 days in the work week, right? Monday through Friday. Okay. So you should sit down with your staff and anybody that's helping with your marketing and create 5 talking points for your practice, 5 main talking points. An example would be fun facts and interesting things about the office. Another one would be testimonials of patients that are happy. Another one is, our services that you want to see more of. Another one could simply be inspirational quotes, books, ideas. And the last one would be tips on staying healthy. Okay, those are 5 major talking points that a podiatric practice should consider for what they would do. And so then, so in my case, we have Mindset Monday. We have Testimonial Tuesday, I think it is. We do our products. If you watch, you'll see this. Our products and services are focused on in the middle of the week. Fridays is always inspirational, great things like that. And Thursday is, I think we have products. We do that twice. And so anyway, that's us at Top Practices. Yeah. And now, so doctor, you don't have to do all this, but somebody could be, and your staff could say, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do healthy tips for the month, and they only have to do 4. And you can have, and one could be a great recipe, stretching exercise, whatever it is. Somebody can find 4 great quotes that are inspirational and helpful. There's just so much you could do like that. And then you should be posting on social media every day. And in fact, on Instagram, you should post twice a day. And people think, listen, we're not in the business of doing this, but in fact, yes, you are. You're in the business of promoting your podiatry practice, and that's what works.
And as you say, short form video. I mean, TikTok has really exploded. I think there's one of the podiatrists on TikTok, one of the Californian podiatrists, has just got 1 million followers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Sure.
What's that going to make to her practice?
Pardon me?
So what's that going to do for her practice? I mean,
exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. And on Instagram, you want to get good at doing reels, because reels, which are the Instagram version of TikTok, are highly weighted right now by Instagram, because they want reels to really, compete very well with TikTok. And it's just a little bit of time, but just get really in the habit of that. Make sure you're emailing your patient base once a week about something. It could be a video, it could just be a recipe, but stay connected with them. Always send out a newsletter. Newsletters are, I always say, Rem, the 1980s they want their marketing ideas back, but newsletters work. They work. I mail thousands of newsletters every single month all over the world. And you don't have to mail them if you can't stand that thought, but make sure you put it together, because if they're interesting, and if you say, well, I've tried newsletters, they didn't work. Well, boring newsletters don't work. But interesting newsletters are great. So,
yeah. It's, I mean, well, that's it. Just brings up something that somebody a couple of weeks ago we just started off with, and they were like, well, listen, I've tried it again like this. I've tried this before, it didn't work, and I tried that and it didn't work, and this didn't. And it's like, well, those are sort of fundamental things that we can work on.
Right.
The message wasn't right, then the engagement wasn't there. And that's why it's just it's like the person coming in and just putting the ad into with the ad guy who walks in and just a short ad and not thought out. It doesn't make the phone ring tomorrow. That means that advertising doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. But it makes you feel good because you're like, oh, I'm doing something. Like if you have a lousy website, a lot of people have that, but they think I've got a website. Well, if you have a website that no one cares about and you have messaging that no one can see because they're not thinking about, the things it's not hard. It's not hard. Listen, if you want to know what to say, listen to your patients every day. The questions that they ask you, the things they tell you about what's hurting is what everybody else is trying to solve too. Just use that as your guide.
Yeah, there was a very good guy. He was doing a series a couple of years ago. And it was just, it was an end of the day, 5 minutes. Really interesting question a patient asked me today. And he just made a note of, as you say, when you've had 30 conversations that day, there must be one thing that sticks in your mind or one question. And he just did a quick 5 minute end of the day, just finished up. Somebody asked me this today. This is the answer that I gave them. And he just built it up on those on those small.
That's simple. Hold your phone out and do it. I mean, we're all so used to that kind of video now. Nothing has to be high production whatsoever. And that's a great idea. But it really comes down to the consistency, because that's what drives all the numbers up higher, and that's what drives conversions and people, seeing your messages. It's about consistency.
Yeah, but I think
don't overdo it, but don't underdo it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of practitioners, as you say, they get a bit worried about, I'm going to have to do this, or it's going to take up more time, and they don't really see the sort of the cost benefit, or they have tried before and it hasn't worked for them. But certainly to build a longer term business now, and to grow and scale a business, especially. I mean, a lot of practices don't want to sit around and wait for 10 or 15 years to build up a sustainable practice that by word of mouth. There's a lot easier ways to grow and scale practices now, and to really sort of bring in a lot of new patients into larger group practices as well.
Yeah, though I want to say one thing really clear. So the whole method for marketing here at Top Practices, I call the 4 pillars of marketing. And there's only 4 places patients can come to you from. They can come to you from the internet in all its various and wonderful ways. They can come to you from medical and non-medical referral sources that are around your practice geographically that refer to people like you if they know you're there. They also come from word of mouth, which is really what I call internal marketing. And that's your active patients, inactive patients, really inactive patients, anybody that knows you, trusts you, likes you. And the last one would be things you might do you might spend money on for broadcast or even, in print, but not much of that anymore. But you can do sponsorships, you can do things like that. But here's the deal. That's why we call it the 4 pillars of marketing. So you market online, you market the second pillar I call it shoe leather marketing, because somebody has to be walking around, not you, doctor, has to be walking around with a ray of sunshine personality, helping people, letting them know, hey, we're here, we got you if you need any help. And by the way, here's a little chocolate, because who doesn't love chocolate, and all the rest of it. And then they come from your own patient base, which is really a function of 2 things. Using your list, maintaining it in a very good contact manager that's designed for marketing, not for billing. And then also providing an outstanding experience in your practice. So your patients become raving fans, not just like it, but satisfied, but they just adore your office. And then you might do things out in the community, but not till you do these other things first. And it's really a function of all of it. So I want to point out that there's this misunderstanding now that marketing means the internet, and that is only one of 4 pillars. We're all little
practices. A lot of them, we need new patients. We want to do this, and a lot of times we end up working on the leaky bucket in the practice already. That, as you say, that very simple conversation for that patient who's been coming to see you and there's a raving fan for 5 years. When was the last time you asked them personally for a referral? Very, very simple. Would you mind taking this? I'm sure you may. And if you know somebody who has a foot problem like you, would you mind giving this to them?
Right.
And asking that. I mean, very, very simple, but people don't forget the simple things.
Well, and then we feel like we're asking for something when in fact people really like being asked to review you because being able to refer is a form of social currency, and people they're sort of honored by that. And I always say when somebody says thank you, that's what should be in your mind. Thank you. When someone says thank you, that should be the little switch in your mind that says, oh, now I should ask them for a review or a testimonial or referral, whichever you're really looking for. You should be generating 1 or 2 5-star reviews online a week in your practice if you're seriously looking to do it.
Yeah, especially because it's all tied in, and again, people get very confused. It's all tied in with Google ads, and Google business rankings help with your SEO and help with your whole online presence. It's a whole package. Would you find, are there particular areas in the States then where you said print and newspaper advertising? Because I used to kill it in Ireland and the UK with newspaper ads. I mean, literally it was spend $1 and get $7 or $8 back for every dollar spent at least. And I thought it was very underutilized. I thought it didn't work. I ran newspaper ads that didn't work. And ads that did work, I mean, I had one of those free papers, and there was different ways that you placed it, and it had to cut. Anyway, the guy who ran it in the free paper, which didn't work as well as the paid paper, wanted to run the ad his way. So, but he wasn't prepared to take the challenge of, I'll run it one week, you run it the next, and we'll compare and see who works. It was more like an advertorial, but it definitely worked. But again, it was just another area of new patient sort of generation. And I'm sure, as you said, it will work in some areas better than others.
Yeah, but I've not really seen. You have to test it because some people happen to be it's not like rural or urban, it just doesn't seem to be that way. I will say this, the nicer, the higher end and the glossier the publication, the less it seems to convert. Okay. It's the things that they throw in your driveway or they stick in the diner and it's thing. Those things tend to be read. And they're better and they're cheaper.
The free ones that say didn't work. I mean, I had our first newspaper ad. I got the 127 new patients we got from one ad.
That's right. Yeah, good for you.
I got told this story before. I was away. I was in London. It was the kids' half term, and I phoned Fiona, and I knew there was some issue because we had 2 phone lines, but it took me a couple of hours to get through. And she's like, "What the hell have you done?" And I thought she said 16 patients had booked that morning. But no, 60 patients had booked that morning. She drafted other admin in because the place had gone nuts. And I think the offer in the ad was too good. But yes, for every patient, and again, certain newspapers didn't work in certain areas. We tried them all. But I ran newspaper ads very successfully for 7 or 8 years. And it was great. It turned it on and off. And it appealed to a certain patient demographic. It wasn't those patients who just wanted to come onto your website, here's the phone number, I need an appointment today. It was a slightly different sort of patient, but that was the patient grouping that we were looking for. That female over sort of 60, quite concerned about their health. They read those type of newspapers. If you're looking for a 23-year-old college student, you want to be on Instagram or TikTok. That's not the demographic that you're aiming for. But we still work, and we're working with one practice in the UK mainly now. And because the health service there has, there was a waiting list, and now that's been delayed because the focus was on the primary care and diabetic and not the long-term sort of sports medicine stuff. The waiting lists have gone through the roof for musculoskeletal problems. And we're working with, we're absolutely killing it in newspaper ads. Because we've run an ad appealing to people who have been on a waiting list for a heel pain, say, and now their appointment's being pushed along. So again, that's that type of demographic. So it definitely does work. But of course, then people look at the newspaper and go onto the website. It's another introduction for you.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times they'll report they're coming in from the internet when in fact they might have seen you at something like that. So that's why, like I say, there's 4 pillars. You don't just market in one place. And unfortunately, a lot of people that, advise on marketing now don't know that. They think, oh, you gotta be on TikTok. And okay, fine. But no, how about, you've got somebody that's knocking on doors. How about you're doing a variety of different things.
Yeah. And it all has to be linked, because today you're just saying TikTok. This morning I was looking and there was a lady and she's in the States, but she had been to China. She's pulling, she makes homemade noodles. Everybody's making banana bread or whatever, but this lady's making Chinese noodles. But there was a link from her TikTok to her Instagram, where there was a link tree where you could buy her cookbook, where you could see her latest videos of her making noodles, her trip to China. You could click through to the local Chinese supermarket that she uses, where they have her store covered package. It's all interlinked.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And you can come into her to see her at various different ways. So again, it's the wheel is all sort of connected. It can't be sort of seen as just do one thing and everything else will happen.
It doesn't work like that, right? It's a like I said, there's a method to it, and you just build it slowly, and then if you utilize that kind of a calendar that we built, that we work with our folks, it takes all the pressure off, and it makes it easy to be very active without anybody having to do too much, especially the doctors. You as the doctor have a responsibility to shoot some videos every single month so that you have that kind of content, because it is rocket fuel.
The calendar can just be the big events, because again, that was the thing. If you have the marketing planned out, you've got St. Patrick's Day coming up, and then Easter, and then start of summer and spring break. Those sort of things. You got Halloween. You could have those overall times to build your practice marketing around. Ski season time, football time, kids back to school. And build the marketing around there.
It's truly that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to overthink things too much. But if you say it can take a lot of work.
Yes, which is why, first of all, I would not suggest you farm it out to other people, because it's just not going to be nearly as authentic as if you did it. And, most of my doctors have someone working that's specifically involved in marketing in their practices, and either part-time or full-time. Some practices are such that they have 2 full-time people, but that's rare. But everybody gets to contribute some, and it's fun. It's a team building thing, and it's just not hard if you plan it out. And then, because the real question that people have is, how do I come up with ideas? Well, get your 5 talking points. And then from that, it'll drive so many ideas. You get so far ahead with content. In December, I did a couple things. I spent an afternoon, I shot 19 videos. And by the time it was done, I was tired. But now I've got these 19 videos, and, I'm good. I just got to stay ahead of that. And then I went out with my daughters, and one was running the camera, one was running the little, thing reflecting the light or whatever. And I've got 200 photos of me now, because I need new photos, because I don't look the way I used to look since
you're a third of the man you used to be.
Yeah, my health is drastically improved. Yeah. And by the way, Justin, I have to be careful, because I do have at the top of the hour, I have a hard stop. So just so you know.
Okay, before we'll go. Yeah, because that's it. I'm sure you got to the stage where you found that the lifestyle wasn't sort of helping with the day-to-day or how you wanted to sort of perform. And you mentioned a little bit before about burnout. And I had some of that. I had quite a busy sort of practices, and running to sort of juggle all these balls. It is quite prevalent.
It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everyone can struggle from that. Everyone does.
Yeah.
But you have to find your way. And again, read The Fred Factor by Mark Sanborn. It's just a simple little story about the fact that, the odds of you winning the lottery that's not going to happen. And so your life is going to be the way it is now. And you can blow it up if you want to and mess up your marriage and start over again like that. And you'll find out I'm in the same marriage I was in before, which, by the way, hasn't happened to me 31 years with my wife. But I see it and I wonder about that. And you think, I'm going to go do something else. And you're just in the same place. So find the joy in Eckhart Tolle wrote a fantastic book called The Power of Now. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's called The Power of Now. And it's simply, look, the past happened, learn from it, don't obsess over it. The future has never once arrived. Not one time has the future ever showed up for you. You're always in the present moment. And you might as well enjoy the present moment, because you might be here tomorrow for the next 40 years. You might be gone this evening. So might as well enjoy today. Life is short.
The only thing you get looking in the rear view mirror or looking over your shoulder is a pain in the neck. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't do that. Yeah, I had my own issues, and it doesn't. Positive mental attitude is the thing. And so
another one.
Pardon me? It's the only way.
And if you read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, I would recommend The Keys to Success, the 17 Principles of Personal Achievement by Napoleon Hill. It's kind of a reworking of it. But at the end, he has all 17 principles, but every single one of them, like, in other words, develop a mastermind alliance with positive mental attitude, control your enthusiasm with positive mental attitude. It is a force multiplier for everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't start life's too hard.
There's newer stuff like Jordan Peterson's The 7 Principles of life and things. I think it's the 7 principles. So, I think, but do you think it is just practices or podiatrists just get a little bit overwhelmed with the whole marketing business side of their business?
Sure. Well, they don't know how to do it. And that's what we do, is we try to teach them how to do it and how to enjoy it. And then and I'll end with this if I could. So there were, Brian Moran wrote a great book called the 12-Week Year. And in it, he talks about the 5 stages of transformation. And the first one is uninformed enthusiasm. So you're like, oh, this is great. This is going to be fun. I love this. Let's go. Let's yahoo. Where's this been all my life? Yep. Then you move to step 2, which is called informed pessimism. And that's where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to rework this. I got to hire somebody for this. And all of the costs and the effort and the work is here, but none of the results are here. Then you move to the 3rd stage, which is called the valley of despair. And when you're in the valley of despair, now you're really sunk in. You're like, I'm doing all this stuff, and I still don't see the results yet. And I'm like, maybe I should quit. This might work for other people, but not me. Then you move to stage 4, which is informed optimism. That's when people say to people like you and me, hey, you know what? This stuff actually works. And we're like, yeah, I know, right? And then stage 5 is success and fulfillment. And we all get there, but nothing comes without intention. And again, at the end of the day, be kind to yourself along the way. Just do that.
That person in England didn't think the newspapers were going to work until you got 80 new patients in 2 weeks. but again, it worked in that demographic. So, Rem, thank you very much for talking to us. It worked better the second time around.
Yes, it did. I'm so glad.
Where can people find you?
Toppractices.com. It's that simple. Just come on. And a lot of resources there, lots of stuff. You can request copies of our books and everything else. And
and what events have you got planned now? Again, will be socially distanced events. You guys did have something in Vegas before Christmas time.
We have an annual summit, and this is going to take place in Las Vegas, downtown Las Vegas, on October 8, 9, 10. So we'll be joining people from all around the world come to that one. And downtown Las Vegas is a lot of fun.
I might be allowed on a plane by that stage.
Yeah, right. We'll see.
That's what a lot of people, especially when we're stuck on a cold, dark rock in the middle of the in the middle of the winter time. But Rem, great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure. Have a good day, everybody. Have your best day ever today, and then tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.